So you may remember last year, one of the most beloved PS1 franchises got remastered for modern consoles. I'm talking about the Crash Bandicoot series. The Crash Bandicoot series was remade for the PS4, and we got all three original games. So we got Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back, and Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped. Now, if you've never played a Crash Bandicoot game, the Crash series was a series that was a platforming series. So it was a platformer, but it wasn't your standard 2D platformer, and it wasn't your standard 3D platformer. It was somewhere in the middle. I like to call the Crash Bandicoot series somewhat of a 2.5D, if 2.5D was ever a thing. I think Crash Bandicoot came out at a time where 2D was still very popular and it was still the normal thing to do, and 3D was coming out. I think we had games like Super Mario 64 and Bubsy coming out, and those games were fairly new. I don't even know if those games were out when Naughty Dog was actually working on the Crash Bandicoot series. If you ever played the Crash Bandicoot original games, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not a 2D game where you're strictly playing like an old school Mario, but it's not a 3D game, so you can't really move around the environment like you can any other 3D game, but you'll know what I'm talking about if you ever played a Crash Bandicoot game. Now, the Crash Bandicoot games that were remade are coming to the Nintendo Switch as well, so maybe you didn't get to play those games on the PS4 and you have a Nintendo Switch and you want to give the Crash Bandicoot series a spin. You will be able to play the Crash Bandicoot games remastered on the Nintendo Switch coming out this summer. But I'm kind of getting off topic of what this video is. This video does have some tie-ins to Crash Bandicoot because now another beloved PS1 franchise is getting remastered for the PS4. Now, they haven't said if it's coming to the Nintendo Switch, but I wouldn't see why. If the Crash Bandicoot series can get ported to the Nintendo Switch, then why wouldn't this franchise get ported to the Nintendo Switch? It does kind of feel like it would make sense to get ported to the Nintendo Switch because the Nintendo is known for these cartoony characters. They have Mario, they have all these different franchises that are really suited for Nintendo, and these franchises as well, like Crash Bandicoot and the series I'm about to talk about, do seem fitted for the Nintendo Switch. The series I'm talking about back on the PS1, which was also just as beloved as Crash Bandicoot, was the Spyro games. The Spyro games were much beloved games, just like the Crash Bandicoot games. Now, again, if you've never played a Spyro game, Spyro the Dragon is a platformer as well. It's much more of a 3D type platformer. And I don't know too much about Spyro. I do have memories of playing Spyro. I remember I played almost 99% of the third one, Spyro Year of the Dragon. I don't think I played Spyro's Ripto's Revenge, I think it's called, and Spyro the Dragon, the original. So I don't really have when it comes to this series, I don't really have too many fond memories of this series, but I think it's a very cool thing that they are remastering this game for modern consoles, at least the PS4. And the thing is, this game is also going to be developed by the studio who developed some of the Skylanders games. I think if you remember the first Skylanders game that was ever made was actually featuring Spyro the Dragon. And then once the other Skylanders games came out, they started they focused less on the Spyro aspect, so they really didn't feature Spyro as heavily as like the first, I think, game. I don't know how many games featured Spyro, but I do know the first Skylanders game really heavily featured Spyro. Spyro was one of the main characters in that game. So you can see that there is some love for Spyro, and a lot of people, after seeing the Crash Bandicoot collection, really wanted a Spyro the Dragon collection. I can see that, and it does make sense. And I'll probably be picking up this collection as well. It'll be great to play through some of the first games, because I never really played through Spyro the Dragon. And like I said, Spyro Ripto's Revenge. I pretty much only have a lot of solid memory for Spyro Year of the Dragon. Spyro Year of the Dragon was a flat out fantastic game from what I remember, but I still don't have a lot of memories of this franchise. I think this collection, as well as the Crash Bandicoot collection, is only going to set you back $40, so they're not charging full prices for these collections, which is amazing. Considering you're getting 3 games with this collection, you would think this collection would be $60, but no, it's going to be like the Crash Bandicoot collection where they only charge $40 for this game, and I think for what you're getting 3 full games that are remastered in HD. I think that's absolutely a very good price to pay for these games. You can't ask for more. That's a very good steal. Whether you played these games before or whether you haven't played these games before, it's just very exciting news that we're getting Spyro the Dragon remastered. That pretty much takes care of some of the big platformers on PS1, Crash and Spyro. I remember Crash and Spyro back in the day were actually they actually clashed in some of the Game Boy Advanced games. So when you actually played those games, I think they had like Crash Orange and Spyro Purple, I think those games were called. I think they made one game like that. So you can see how beloved these games were, and you can see where the tie-ins are to these franchises. They're 2 of Sony's big platformers back on the PS1, and as I know for a fact, Crash Bandicoot, of course, you may know, was pretty much the mascot of Sony way back in the day and way back during the PS1 era, and same thing with Spyro. I don't think they had commercials for Spyro, or maybe they did. I think they actually did have it. Excuse me. I'm pretty sure I remember a couple years ago watching something for Spyro the Dragon on a commercial, but I don't think it was as heavily marketed as Crash Bandicoot. But either way, these are some of the most famous games for PlayStation, so it's nice to see these games are coming back and you can actually relive these games, or maybe you never had a chance to play these games. Anyway, guys, this is Wayne from My Tech News, signing out.